Hi guys, and welcome to another episode. Today I'm honored to be sitting here with Ross from EOS Sphere, which of course is a block producer candidate who has some really good community involvement. So I just want to say thanks for sitting down with me today, Ross. I'm really excited to have you here, and I'm going to kind of start this off the way that I always start things off. If you can just kind of introduce yourself, maybe talk a little bit about your past, how you found cryptocurrency, how you made your way to EOS, and then kind of how eventually you decided that you were going to announce that you're going to be a node for EOS and how that kind of all came about.
Hey, Matt, thanks for having me on. I'm honored. I suppose that's a really strong word. I'm happy to be here. I love watching your interviews. So my name's Ross Dold. I am the co-founder for EOSphere. We are an Australian-based mainnet block producer at this point, standbys, and we are based in Perth in Western Australia. We've been going at our campaign and educating the Australian community since January this year, and we announced our candidacy. I think it was in February or March. I'll have to go and look and Steem it. But where did it all happen? Where did it all start? Right. So I personally, myself and my co-founder Ken Hall from back in earlier this year, we've both been involved in cryptocurrency since about 2012. For myself, it started off with Litecoin mining in our study, explaining to Shelley about the high electricity bill each month. It was pretty amusing. But Ken actually discovered proto shares from a company called Invictus, and if you were familiar with Dan Larimer's earlier work, that's where it all kind of started. It was a proof of work token that was called proto shares. And we mined the hell out of that stuff. Yeah. And Dan eventually saw that there was a necessity for a different mechanism that wasn't going to be so energy intensive. And he started developing the idea of delegated proof of stake. And proto shares then became bit shares. And there was the whole airdrop model that was all created back in those days, where you would have like angel shares and you would have your bit shares, and out of them, all other dApps that came on would airdrop their tokens. For instance, it was Bit Music and Bit Lotto and all those kind of things. Anyhow, so the bit share space, I was involved with that. I never ever ran a delegate, but I was always part of the forums and kept on top of where Dan Larimer's mind was. And then he moved on to Steem it, right? So, we thought, oh, jeepers, this could be the next big thing. Steem it also uses a variant of the same graphene-based technology using delegated proof of stake. And that also started off as a proof of work just for a moment at the beginning when it originally launched. Mined the hell out of that. And then actually really started getting involved with more of the community side, where, I was doing blogs. Shelley, my wife, she was the Steem it wife, and she was doing posts and getting paid for it. And I ended up running a witness. Still run a witness to this day. However, since we've been working on EOS these days, it doesn't get the same amount of attention. I know Gandalf gives me some grief about me not participating enough in the Steem it community, but I'm still involved to a degree. So I've been running a witness for years. I think since 2014, I think it was 2014, 15. Oh, I don't know. The time goes crazy. In crypto time, that could have been like 30 years ago. And then after that, Dan obviously left Steem it, and he hinted at starting a new project, which ended up being EOS.io. And because myself and my co-founder and the rest of the team, from friends and colleagues that I worked with here in Australia, we just knew that it would be the next best thing. And delegated proof of stake technology is something that we can completely get behind. And then here we are. We announced our candidacy and ultimately helped launch the EOS mainnet, and have been involved in the space this whole year pretty much today.
Yeah, it's funny, we were talking earlier that it hasn't been that long, but it feels like a really long time.
I don't get it why it's like that. It's bizarre. I mean, mainnet has only been going for like 4 months, and it really feels like years.
Yeah. I think it's because a lot of people in the community, yourself included, just put in probably like normal people kind of work on, you know, a 9 to 5 or like an 8 to 6. I think that when you're kind of involved in EOS, it's like a 24-hour a day job.
Yeah. It's around the clock.
And you're seeing little quadrahedrons kind of, you know, jumping around in your head.
The chastahedrons. I know we've got enough of them around the house. We've got pictures and models and everywhere.
You mentioned something that was kind of interesting to me, which is kind of a segue to my next question. You talked a little bit about education. Now, I did go over your website and I noticed that you guys have a partnership with RMIT University. How important is education in blockchain kind of to the future? And what is that partnership all about?
So when we originally announced our partnership with RMIT, it was for us to fund governance, blockchain governance research at RMIT University, which would have meant funding the papers being written and actual employment for professors to actually do the kind of research. It was kind of hinged on us being top 21, right? So those grand ideas of these this huge amount of funding that we're going to be able to give to them, we had to knock it down a few notches, right? So at the moment, what we do is we fund some of the smaller events. RMIT are still partners with us, whereas we connect each other to, or I connect them, or we connect them through to the EOS network. I know that Professor Potts and Alistair Berg, they have regular conversations with Thomas Cox. There's a lot of conversation, academic conversation about governance on a blockchain and what that means as far as all the sort of philosophy and modern day economics that these guys actually study, like the academic kind of studies that they do at the university. So they still have that. When we have meetups, RMIT join us and they present their ideas on what governance means. They read lots of books that I have not read. So usually I'm the odd one out in the conversation with them all. But it's absolutely important that the world understands that blockchain is not Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And the whole idea about having a governed blockchain and having social agreements on a chain or something so new. And everyone's trying to get their head around how we can apply that to the real world and everyday life. And here we are, EOS IO mainnet, an experiment running in the real world. So it's great that the students are learning about it correctly from the experts, and we're happy to facilitate that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I did kind of the Worbli online conference with Mr. Potts. He's a smart man. So he's definitely well read to listen to.
Yeah, very well read. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%, and very tuned in and very interesting guy. I wanted to talk about something else that I kind of scooped off your website, and that is, of course, your involvement in Chintai.
Yes, Chintai. Yeah, I made friends with David Packham like in February or March this year, and he had this idea about Chintai and asked if there was something that we could get behind. Even back then we realized, because of how you had to stake for your relative resources on the network as a DApp, we realized that there might become an opportunity where you would need more than tokens you actually had into the token leasing market. That's how we kind of got involved with it, because we've been so vocal and first to announce and be involved in the community. It gave us the opportunity to sponsor that. EOS 42 and the Chintai team have put a tremendous amount of work into actually booting that platform.
Yeah,
I think that at the moment there's only a few dApps that really need that kind of those kind of resources. But as time goes on, I think that the opportunity for developers to be able to get the resources that they need is going to be completely essential, and take Chintai to the next level. Even if you kind of follow it, you can see that the market depth kind of building. I know the leasing rate was really low. It was like 0.01%. I think that was EOS Bet. I think it was looking for some resources. I'm not 100% sure. But as time goes on, I think that platform is going to be used more and more and more.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I'm excited about the future of Chintai. And of course, as the price of EOS increases, the demand for Chintai will increase. And one thing that I think a lot of people forget is that is actually a community funded DApp. Like it's not, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No profits.
Yeah, there are 11 of us, I think.
Yeah.
You go to the site, you can see us all listed down the bottom. And we actually, and it's free to use, right? And it's free because us as the sponsors have delegated stake through to the DApp itself, as well as purchase RAM for the DApp, so the community can use it. And that's why it's a really good community initiative.
It really is. Yeah, it's nobody's making money over there. It's just purely from from a bunch of block producers who are trying to do the right thing and trying to provide some. Clearly, you are. So, I'll thank you on behalf of the community for your contributions.
Yeah. Pleasure.
I want to talk to you about something else. Like, I'm a big fan of Worbli, and I think that it's really, really cool. I don't think it takes anything away from the EOS ecosystem. I think, in fact, it kind of provides a back door for people to be able to enter, and then eventually through IBC, enter the ecosystem through like a safe wallet. I also know that you guys were recently announced as one of the block producers for Worbli. Like, what's kind of your thoughts on Worbli? How excited are you for kind of the future of Worbli, and do you see it as a necessity to be able to facilitate adoption in the EOS ecosystem?
So I started talking with Sam about 4 months ago. Sam's obviously one of the partners at Worbli. He's based in Australia. And he was telling me about this idea of Worbli and a financial services network, and didn't quite get it at the beginning. Then I met with him at the hackathon in Sydney. And the more I got talking to him, the more I realized that there is a necessity for an AML and KYC enabled blockchain that makes it easy for businesses to come on. It gives them, and there's a degree of insurance. So it eliminates some of the risk and some of the fear that businesses that have got a lot at stake to actually launch some applications on a network. It also makes it easier for users themselves to have a single sign-on. It makes it it makes it easier for them to come on board without worrying about their grandmother losing all of their tokens or wealth or whatever it is due to some mismanagement of a key, etc. Now, the more I talk to other DApp developers and businesses, the more I realize that this is an absolute it's going to be an absolutely required type of blockchain.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people also, they're always thinking that it's here to steal the users from mainnet, and it's not the plan at all, to be honest. No. It's definitely a sister chain, a friendly side chain, and yeah, when RBC is available, it'll be a mechanism for you to onboard yourself, get comfortable with the space, and if required, you could then move on to mainnet or whatever other chains are out there at a later stage.
And then I think the only thing after that is just to kind of keep tabs on grandma, and make sure she's not buying up all the Dodge. No.
In saying that, creating a wallet these days is really getting easy. Hey, I've even my dad, he used the Lynx wallet, and it was just quickly pay with the iTunes on his iPhone. Done. Apple Store sorted.
We're getting closer.
Had a wallet. Of course, all the keys were the same, so I had to help him out there. But
I also was cruising your website, and I saw something that kind of like a blurb about how you guys work with a lot of other parts of the community all over the world. Like, how important is it to have that global community and maintain those relationships in EOS?
Well, let me tell you from a selfish point, us only representing Australia wouldn't be the best kind of block producer sense. There's not as many people in Australia as there are in the US or Europe or China. So it's important for us to have token holders know what we are about and vote for us, right? Rather than just being those guys that don't have anything to do with us, right? So that's the selfish point of view. The second point is EOS.io and the EOS mainnet, or any of the chains. The value is in global community. The diversity of people participating inside the actual blockchain itself is where the strength is. The fact that you've got all these different block producers from different regions predominantly, means that you've got different cultures, different beliefs, even different political setups, which make the chain stronger. So you're not constrained to everybody has to do it X, Y, and Z way. If one of those block producers, because in their country they couldn't be a block producer, if they had to fall away, that doesn't kill the whole network.
Yeah.
So I think that's absolutely important. And out of all of the cryptocurrencies and tokens and other blockchains that I've been involved with, I have never seen the amount of community participation as we see in EOS.io, because it's all of the side chains, Emanate, and everything. There's so much conversation. Telegram, it's a nightmare because it's just so much going on. But everybody's involved. Everybody has an opinion. And for the most part, we eventually get to some kind of consensus on everybody's opinion. But I think that's important, even though it's difficult. I mean, that's what decentralization is all about, right? Mm-hmm. Different ideas, different thoughts, different priorities. And I think it's hell of important.
Yeah, and it makes it stronger, of course, right? Which is a beautiful thing about it. I wanted to ask you about something else that I read, which was the Good Guys for EOS proxy. What exactly is that? How did it come about? And how does it work?
So we were one of the first proxies to actually register. And it started off with me thinking that probably a way for, initially it was just the team's tokens, right? Because there's got to be an easier way for us to agree on who we're going to vote for. And we need a mechanism for the community to get behind it. And then I realized that, we are stuck in this point because, we were like in this, between like 40 and 60, there's this thick band, right?
Yeah.
Of really competent, great block producers that do amazing stuff for the community, whether it be technical, social, just evangelizing the platform, and they're not getting voted in. And I thought that, what I think the community could get behind was a proxy that would vote for all of the good guys that were, I don't know, the underdogs is what Chris Pollard was calling us in our recent article, right? Nice. So, vote for the underdogs, the guys that actually are playing an important role in the community, but just aren't getting the visibility and recognition, And so we are all about, we vote for competent block producers that adhere to the Constitution and the Reg Producer Ricardian contract, guys that are involved in the community and are below 1% vote in the network. So out of all of the votes in the network, if you are below 1%, you're on our radar. And if you go and have a look at who we vote for, it's awesome. We vote for only good guys. And we've actually got an article that's been coming out every week, just showcasing 3 of the guys that we vote for. And we vote for all 30, by the way. Yeah. And we got a little blurb about what these guys are doing, and why we're voting for them. So, if you don't know who you want to vote for, because it can be a bit of a chore, we've already done all the hard work for you. Proxy your vote through to us on any one of the platforms, and just know that you're going to be looking after this band in the middle of people that we actually can't afford to lose in the network, because these guys are doing an important role. They just don't have any super whales voting for them.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of not necessarily underrated, because their activities are very visible, but maybe just kind of undervoted people who do like a lot of really, really good work who I speak to on a basis. So I think that's a great idea. I really like it. We were kind of talking about relationships earlier. Who are some of your closest relationships in the EOS space, and why?
Well, of course, it's our partners off the bat, right? So, we partner with Emanate, which is a music platform. It's designed to compensate artists fairly and easily, which I didn't know until recently is actually a problem in the music industry. So we do quite a lot of work with them. We jointly run social media campaigns. I connect them with the EOS network, and I'm happy because working with them means that we're supporting a DApp that I think is going to make a difference, and it's a real DApp, right? It actually works. The showcase that at Blockchain Live by Block.one, which is pretty cool. Obviously, we've got a relationship with RMIT. Some of the other local dApps in Australia, as they've been built, we have some good conversation with them. Blockchain Center in Australia. So those are more like the partnership kind of things. I would say that we have relationships with all of the block producers, all of the publicly visible block producers, and don't all jump up and down in your seat. It doesn't mean that there's any kind of collusive relationship, but we all definitely join in group discussions to understand where we're going as a mainnet, and what kind of things are important, how we should run our infrastructure. Hey, look what I've done in my country. Look how the businesses jumped on board because of this presentation I did, or maybe I'll use some of that here and get that kind of synergy going. So a lot of relationships. I wouldn't say there's any particular one that is the only one, just so many.
I love Emanate. I have interviewed Sean and Jimmy before. I'm not saying everybody else should, but I personally bought it at the pre-sale. Like, I'm excited about Emanate. I think that it's a really and I'm looking forward to seeing that DApp drop, because there is a need, and the way that it kind of like pays out by, I think it's like even by the second, isn't it, to artists, and just kind of
so at the moment, just the demo is every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
But I think it's more like a demo. I think realistically it'll probably be every 30 seconds or so. But what's really cool is, like, if you and I made samples, I had a drum and you had a keyboard or whatever, and somebody went and mixed that in that same song, as that song is playing, you and I could be fairly compensated for our samples from somebody else's track. It's really, really cool. If you go and join the community, also it gives you it opens your eyes to this other world, right? That they're not cryptocurrency, blockchain platform, nothing like that, right? They're all like, these are artists. So it's interesting to go and listen to what they're talking about. They just want the problem solved, right? They don't really care what it is on, as long as it's going to deliver. And I think Emanate's going to be that platform.
Me too. It's one of my most anticipated dApps on EOS. Like, I like a lot of dApps, but Emanate is right at the top of that list for a lot of different reasons. Those guys are super cool. Jimmy's supposed to be coming down to Costa Rica. He has a girlfriend out here, so hoping to hook up and have a couple of bubblies with him. But I like what they're doing. I think it's a cool idea. So
Cool.
that's pretty funny. I guess my next question was, if you weren't like doing this, because I know Ross, we were talking earlier, you live for this stuff, and as of course do I. You wake up every day and EOS. What do you think you would be doing if you weren't a block producer right now? What would you be doing?
Well, I worked for 20 years in the professional IT industry. I'm actually a networking CCIE. I don't know if you know what that is. So I'm a Cisco certified expert. Predominantly, routing and switching and wireless security, that kind of stuff. But I'd also been running a very large integration company. I was running the services management for Western Australia. So I did that for about 5 years. I think that if I wasn't doing this now, I'd probably still be in that space. That's definitely more enterprise level, not blockchain specific. Blockchain is one of those things that is, it's a technology, and we might get to it in the future. And there are a lot of clients that it's the buzzword, right? Everybody talks about it, but nobody knows how to implement it, right? I'll probably be in that. I'll probably be still in that space.
It's not a far cry, and obviously a lot of interchangeable skills in between the two industries. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
I want to ask.
Well, it helped that. Well, my technical expertise helped me build the data center, right?
Yeah, I can imagine. So, like I said, just not a far cry with a lot of transferable skills. So, I'm going to ask you kind of the tough question that I like to ask everybody. Like, what's really working in the EOS space? What's broken? And then for anything that's broken, what can we do to fix it?
What is working? I love the community. I think the community is working. It's important that we get those opinions. I think that is positive. I think what's probably missing, not broken so much, is we're missing vote participation. Yeah. And I think that when people realize that there's the Chintai platform, they would be able to get some kind of reward for those tokens, and the Chintai platform will vote on their behalf. I think when the resource exchange eventually comes to fruition, I think that it's going to force people to vote. Of course, we want people to vote so that we can get decentralization of the actual block producers. We want them to be voted in by the entire EOS token holder community, rather than the technically competent individuals that have got a big stake, and you'll find it's the technically competent guys that know how to vote, who saw the benefit of the technology, who have got all the tokens because they got in right the way at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
I think that needs to change. We need more participation, especially also as the referendum smart contract is going to be available with front end, and we need the community to use their voice, use their vote in order to help decide the direction of the platform. You know, we're going to be voting on all sorts of things, like what's going to be changed in the constitution. You know, should you be allowed to vote for more than 30 block producers? All these kind of things. You know, what's the interest rate going to be like? You know, sorry, the inflation rate. You know, very, very important for the users to be involved. And I think that's not what's happening at the moment, and it needs to change. And maybe Rex and Chintai, those are the kind of initiatives that get people wanting to vote and use their stake.
I think you're right. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is your vote does matter, because BPs are paid out per vote kind of basis, right? And there's a lot of really, really good BPs who are putting a lot back into the community, who are they're not getting adequately compensated for what they're doing. You know what I mean? So it's like your vote does count. Your vote does matter. And if you're neglecting to vote, then you're really you're maybe doing like a little bit of a disservice to the community, in the sense that there are people who deserve your votes. There are people who are working for your votes who just aren't getting the recognition. I think you're right. Chintai and Rex will help to change that.
Another thing that would help people is when they feel secure enough to be able to use their keys. And there's some really good initiatives at the moment. I know we actually sponsor my EOS wallet by AltShift Dev, and he's busy putting together a web front end for Ledger Nano and for Trezor, as well as Scatter. Maybe people will get more comfortable that there's a hardware wallet, and it'll be easy for you to use your keys, you know, so you don't feel like you're going to get ripped off. So those kind of things as well, you know. Something that does frustrate me is there's a lot of vocal people in the community, and even some of the vocal ones don't vote because they don't feel that that their tokens will be safe and their keys will be kept safe. And it's the same. And so how can you be complaining about how the network is going when you're not even placing your vote? You know, same thing with the politics in the real world, right? Everybody's like, oh, what a mission to go and vote at the election, but oh no, this government is screwed. You have to have your voice heard to make a difference.
Yeah, you do. It's a good analogy. You can't complain if you don't vote, right? So I want to ask you, Ross, I always ask, what do you do for fun, man, when you're not working on this stuff? Like, how do you unwind? How do you relax?
How do I unwind? Well, I've got a 13-year-old daughter, or Shelly and I, we have a 13-year-old daughter. I don't, we go watch movies and that kind of thing. Hobbies and stuff. I'm into electronics. I fly radio control planes. Kind of goes hand in hand. I ride motorbikes. I've got an R1. Sometimes I go to the drag strip. I play computer games. I play mainly on the PC, but I've got a PS4 and Xbox as well. As you would expect from somebody that was into cryptocurrency electronics.
100%. I get it. I have drones. Like I love drones. I don't necessarily have like planes, but I love like kind of aerial photography and just having something up in the sky that you can kind of mess around with. So I definitely get that, and as do I get the computer games. I just wish I had more time. We've got some really cool ones coming out on EOS, and I just wish I had more time to spend playing them, but I don't.
EOS Solar's got a VR EOS game at the moment. I need to actually check that out.
Me too.
My daughter and I play quite a bit of VR together.
Nice.
On the Oculus, so it'll be great to just see what's going on with that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. What would you say some of EOSphere's kind of core values are that define you guys? What do you guys?
So we list our core values on our website. Most of them are the normal thing, transparency, and we aim to do right by the EOS community. But I would say our core value really is community. Because even the initiatives that we get behind, we always measure it next to, if we get behind this, what value is it going to give to the greater EOSphere and community? We always measure it by that. So we don't get behind anything that's not going to see a direct benefit and measurable benefit through to our supporters and the rest of the ecosystem. So I would say that that's probably the strongest thing. Even if you look at our meetups, and we're not like all like, we got a meetup and you have some ERC20 token, you can't come to the meetup. And we're not like that, right? I'd rather bring them along and try and convince them, what to do. But we're very inclusive like that, even here in Australia, us and Generous, we have meetups together. It's not like, it's definitely about inclusion and community. So I'd say that's our primary core value, I reckon.
Yeah. There's some really good VPs in Australia. I'm a big fan of EOS and Nathan as well. I talked to him quite a few times. So you guys have kind of a really cool, just even localized in Australia alone, you guys have just a really, it's a pretty widespread EOS community.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I was going to kind of ask you as well. I was going to ask you if DPoS is kind of the future of cryptocurrency, but I think your earlier explanation kind of covered that. I think
it is. It is definitely. And I'll quickly tell you. I'll tell you why. It's because it's going to be able to scale. I think that's the biggest tick. As soon as we have multi-threading support, it's going to be able to scale like exponentially. But the fact that we can do 4,000 transactions a second right now, it's fantastic. It's a governance layer, and it's got fantastic usability. Half-second block times. You can have a nice little web front end communicating through to the blockchain, and the transactions are for free and really, really quick. I think that's the big difference with DPoS.
Yeah, I agree full-heartedly. I wanted to ask you a little bit, and this is just kind of an interesting question. Do you think that the airdrop model is kind of broken right now in EOS for fundraising?
Well, I suppose there's also the air grab model, so that you need to, make sure you take care of your own RAM. Look, I've never done an airdrop. I see the issues that the guys are having, because I think you need 250 bytes or something per user. Look, I think it's a challenge. I think there's at least 5 or 6 other ways to do it, right? Yeah. And you could even argue that sometimes airdrops are just a waste. Because you get these guys, they get token X, Y, and Z dropped in on their account, and they never look at it again. So maybe it's better to get participation. Maybe it's better to actually do an air grab. These token holders, or these potential token holders, see value in your in that token. So you know what? They go and they pay the 50 cents, to get their stake in that token. I don't know. I don't have more of a view. I know that like Nathan from Generous would understand that a lot better. Yeah. But he's come up with a lot of the different ideas for how to mitigate that. So yeah. Off the bat, I like the air grab idea. Yeah. So, if airdrop, maybe airdrops aren't the way of the future really, because unless you committed to being involved with that platform, why do you even need the tokens in the first place?
Yeah, and Emanate's doing that. They've kind of got a limited distribution. I think people are looking at different ways of seeing a new model of somebody who I spoke to recently, which is doing like one airdrop of a set amount based on your tokens, and then kind of consecutive airdrops based on the amount of those tokens that you're holding in your account for like over 7 months. So there's like different ways that people are kind of learning to mitigate it and make sure that people are loyal and like staying engaged. So I'm just seeing a lot of cool stuff from the space. And I think that traditional airdrop model is just not working. But I think that Nathan as well has got some really cool ideas for some upcoming stuff. So I think we'll always do what we always do and just kind of engineer around it. What kind of dApps are you seeing in the space that really capture your imagination, and what kind of dApps would you actually like to see built that may not be built yet?
So we participated in the hackathon in Sydney. I actually did something really cool. I'll tell you, it's a little segue. I'll tell you. I got one of the team members from Power Ledger to join us. So Anya Nova, she was our spokesperson. We got 2 developers from Emanate, and we got 2 of our guys to create this hybrid team. And they came up with a really good dApp. And that dApp was something called Strauss, which was a mechanism to alleviate strata management. Now, I don't know if what you would call it in Costa Rica or anywhere else in the world, but essentially, if you're in a block of flats, for instance, and everybody has their own like sectional title for their department, but the building still kind of belongs to everybody as like a governing body. And what they do is typically they get a third party to come in and manage the building. Whereas any kind of upgrades, they'll say, okay, we're going to put a new front wall in, or we're going to put solar panels in. That's kind of like where it started. And then everybody had to pay $1,000 for the solar panels, right? But who gets the benefit? Some people didn't want to pay for the solar panels. Anyhow, so it's a mechanism for us to do fractionalized returns for upgrades in the building. Like, for instance, like if they wanted to start doing biofuel in the basement, not everybody needed to participate in it, but it also means that you're not going to get the benefit of it. So it was an automated mechanism to do that. And I believe it's a huge industry, this whole management of proposals and coordination for initiatives around these buildings or complexes. And this DAP was this DAP would solve that. And I don't know, I can't obviously talk about too much more, but it looks like that DAP's actually got a future, and watch the space, I guess.
Yeah.
So that kind of depth, I thought that was awesome. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
Any depth that solves getting rid of some kind of middleman third party, and any depth that brings a degree of automation to something that generally takes like a long time to go through all the red tape and bureaucracy and process. Those are the best kind of depths.
I have to agree with you. I think that's a really cool idea as well. And it's funny all the kind of use cases that are servicing and the way that we're learning to use the blockchain just to solve some complex problems and break things down, create some transparency. And then, of course, like you said, just remove a middleman and decentralize some stuff.
Yeah.
Who do you most admire in this space? Like, if you had to pick one person that you really admire, who would it be and why?
Geez, that's the unfair question.
Okay.
That's unfair. You know who I do admire? I admire the developers and block producers that, without getting any reward or even glimmer of some kind of reward for all the effort, are actually putting the effort in. That's what I admire. I mean, you got these guys completely consuming all of their personal time in order to build dApps and apps and just help people without any guarantee of getting a return. I bet when you first started doing videos for the EOS ecosystem, you were not expecting any kind of reward, right? And I mean, I suppose you're still not getting much of a reward, especially with these kind of guests on the show, right?
We'd have you here anytime.
It's all the unsung heroes that actually make the main net what it is.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. A lot of people doing a lot of hard work that are getting no reward.
Yeah, and I think to downplay yourself and talk negatively, like, I think you hit the nail on the head. You guys are the ones who make this network run. You guys are the people who are going in, day out, and just kind of creating the community and supporting dApps and just supporting people and making this whole thing run. And there are a lot of unsung heroes, which is why I really like your proxy idea for the EOS good guys. It's really cool.
Yeah. So I mean, and also like our block producer rewards. I mean, our whole mantra when we first started, and even to this day, was reinvesting back into the ecosystem to grow a bigger ecosystem. We've actually got a video out there. I don't know if you've seen it, showing what we believe the role of a block producer is. I'll send you the link. Yeah. It's a bit of an old video, but it's still a goodie. And we support guys that are building stuff. It might not even be super public about it, but we'll send. There's 100 EOS, good work there. Keep it up. Just something to keep things going.
Yeah,
we absolutely do that.
That's cool. I love it, Ross. Aussies are good people. From what I don't know. I've I had some Aussie friends back in Canada, and I haven't really met too many of them that I don't like. I think they have kind of a similar mentality to Canadians, just very very giving, very friendly, very warm. And I think you guys are doing a great job.
So it has a spanner for that. I've been living in Australia for 10 years. I'm originally from South Africa.
Okay, cool.
So I'm a South African-Australian cross.
Crazy. It's awesome. I've been dying to get out there for a while. Like, it's on my list of places to go. Of course, Tom from Trybe is English, living in Australia. So I wanted to make my way out there and just visit. I talked to a lot of people in Australia, a lot of people from the EOS community in Australia, and I want to make my way out there sometime in the future. So if I do that, I will look you up.
When you do come out, make sure you let us know. We have regular meetups across the country, and I know that Shelley and Chris were talking about having Tom at the next meetup in Melbourne. So whatever it is, just make sure that we do it all together, and it'll be just better for better for the Australian EOS community to get like, more of the sort of spokespeople in the event. Yeah.
I love it. You called me a spokesperson. I'm honored. I'm still I'm still such a small fish, man, but I just love doing this stuff. And, and I've got the opportunity to speak to a lot of cool people like yourself. So what's something that people might not know about EOSphere, and why should people vote for EOSphere, kind of in, a couple of phrases?
What don't, we're so transparent. We're in the process of moving infrastructure to bare metal. That's kind of, no one really knows about that yet. I need to probably advertise that a little bit.
Yeah.
We get better performance, and Jesus, heaps cheaper than the cloud. But yeah, I'm doing it more for the performance aspect, to be honest.
For sure.
The EOSphere Panda is actually my 13-year-old daughter. A lot of people think that it's Rick Smith or myself in the Panda suit. No, it's not. It's my daughter. And I don't know. We're based in Perth.
I love it. Why should people vote for EOSphere aside from the 3,000 reasons we just went over?
I think a vote for EOSphere is a vote for a team that know how to run the infrastructure, are involved with governance, and are all about community and inclusion. One more. We are opening up a different arm to EOSphere called EOSphere Dev. It's still a work in progress, but the way we figured, we get hit up by businesses and people with ideas to build dApps all the time. Like, we're in the middle of this. So I also have access to so many developers that want work, so many technical guys that want to orchestrate projects and dApps. So we're going to be taking on dApps to actually develop on behalf of businesses as like a sort of services arm. Watch the space. It's obviously a slightly different business structure to what we have at the moment, but it just makes sense, man. It's like we're in the middle of it the whole time, and I get so many emails about with companies saying, please come and help us develop this. So I go and talk to them, and we discuss some of the ideas and some potential dApps, but we don't necessarily take it to the next level. We say, okay, well, you can go speak to that development house. Might as well keep it internal. So yeah, vote for EOSphere would be for those kind of initiatives. It would be for evangelizing how EOS.io is a business-friendly platform. And we just want to grow. And you as a token holder, we want your token to be worth more than $5.50.
It will be, man. That's coming. I don't think anybody can stop that. You know what I mean? I really, really don't. Any final words for kind of the community, Ross? Like, it's been an absolute pleasure here chatting with you, and I'm going to put all of your links and everything we talked about. Send me that video.
I will. Yeah. It's oldie but a goodie.
Yeah, exactly. And any kind of anything interesting, I'm going to list that below in the comments. But do you kind of have any signing off words for the rest of the community, or anything that you want to say to the EOS community in general?
If you're in Australia, just check out our meetup page. Come to some of our meetups. They're a little bit ad hoc at the moment, but there's good conversation and quite a vibrant community from all different blockchains, and we're trying to bring them over to the good side. So come and join if you're in Australia. Any other city. Yeah.
And don't forget to vote for EOSphere.
Vote for EOSphere.
Absolutely. You can slip me the 10 later. No, you deserve it. You do a heck of a good job, man. And
thanks, man.
I'm really pleased to be able to sit down with you today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Cool. Cheers, mate.
Cheers, buddy. Bye.